family did. I am not the voices in my head. I am not the pieces of the brokenness inside. I am light. 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 I'm not the mistakes that I have made, or any of the things that cause me pain. I am not the pieces of the dream I left behind. I am light. 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 Yeah. I am light. I am light. I am not the color of my eyes. I am not the skin on the outside. I am not my age. I am not my race. My soul inside is all light. All light. All light. Yeah. All light. I am light. I am light. I am light. I am light. Yeah. I am divinity defined. I am the God on the inside. I am a star, a piece of it all. I am light.
Good morning and welcome, everyone. I am so honored to join you here in this space. And I always treat this space as if we are coming together in any room, because when women come together, we form a special vortex of sacredness, a special space of sacredness. We become the room no matter where we are. We create a force field of energy just based on our thought and our agreement of higher thought from state to state, city to city, region to region. So if you can just see, feel, and imagine, even as you awaken this morning, that you are not just sitting in that room, in that chair, on this phone alone, that there is a connection that's happening all across the United States and sometimes internationally when some of our sisters who are abroad comes in. So welcome. I am your host, LaTanya Taylor, affectionately known as the Rev Coach, the Juicy Spirit Mama, the Priestess of Purpose, Pleasure, and Passion. And on Sundays, we gather to rebirth what our Sundays looks, feels, tastes, sounds like in terms of our setting our sacred space, our sacred intention. And so this Sunday morning allows us to do that together in love and in unison. So this morning I'm going to do something that I don't normally do, because we have been having some support as I have been working with Fix My Life. We had been having some support in terms of getting the guests, the invitations to the guests. And I'm not sure if the guest is on the line. Typically, they will let me know, and I need to find out. If not, I'm totally prepared, because Mama always has to be prepared. So I'm just going to take a few calls off of mute to see if our guest is in the room. Or you can text me if our guest is in the room. You have my number. You can text me really quickly. I've unmuted a few lines. Yes, 817 is. Are you prepared? Are you one of our speakers?
No, I'm not.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. Well, we're going to move forward since I definitely am already coming prepared. I do want to start off this day acknowledging that this week was an interesting turn of events. Death always is an interesting turn of events. And for the first time in our alumna of the Juicy Spirit sisters who've gone through the rites of passage process, was my first time this week sharing and having to announce that one of our sisters made her transition. And her name is Tracy Sims Washington. You may or may not have known her. She was one of the quiet souls, but when she spoke, it did matter. And some of you may have worked through different processes with her and watched her fight the good fight in terms of cancer. And she basically, her body, and I won't say she did, her body gave up the fight. And she did so ever so gracefully in a way that is absolutely divine. I remember that she always wanted to write, and so she the situation with her body brought about an opportunity for her to write in the book compilation Faith Through Fiery Trials, with Elder Nicole Mason. And so I thought about her life even as I was announcing to the sisters, and I was like, oh, wow, how brilliant was this, her soul and her soul's journey, that who knew she would experience this, but then to that she became more vocal at the end of her life, about her life, and she left that legacy and that treasure, behind her. And we also, there is a sister who we often have quoted and seen her as a poet or author or activist, and she is the writer of When Colored Girls Consider Suicide. And I'm going to do my best at saying her name. And anybody on the line, if once I unmute you, can correct me. But Ntokta Shange, and she also wrote the quote that I love. I met God in myself, and I loved her fiercely. It's a very short quote, but it's a powerful one. And she made her transition as well this week. She, of course, is another woman who left a legacy of words and of truth-telling and really lifting up the experience that women often don't talk about, don't share. And we see one thing on the outside and another thing is happening on the inside for women. And so, I want to let that be my backdrop. And the reason I want to let that be my backdrop is because, after I received the news, I had just had a conversation with the sister to remind me how precious and precious life is. A lot of times we like to say life is short. I'd rather say life is precious. And the conversation that we had just had was about sisterhood, and I shared with the Sisters of Juicy Spirit because I want to share this a little bit more in detail with those of us. When we look at the law of attraction, sometimes it's easy to look at how do good people attract bad things. It's easy to ask that question, how did I've been good to this person and that person. Why did they do this to me, or why did they respond to me this way? And I want to just enter into this space of awareness about how precious life is. To also, we never know what it is we are attracting into our energy, lest we become super aware, self-aware of ourselves. Because when you become super self-aware, you absolutely can kind of know what it is you're attracting into your own energy field in terms of your life, whether it be at work, whether it be out in the world, because there's something that Napoleon Hill talks about, being a deliberate creator and creating our reality. Even when it comes to our female relationships, it is very much attached to the narratives that we tell ourselves and the stories that we have. And I talked a little bit about this last week, when I talked about expecting from people to give to you and to feed to you into your womb. And I guess this is more of a continuation because oftentimes as women there is sometimes a tendency to suffer in silence and sound off to almost anyone who will listen or not make a sound at all. Sometimes we go in between extremes of how much we share and when we share about ourselves. The thing that I used to be pretty green about is this thing where I don't understand why women don't trust women and why women don't, quote unquote, don't get along. And of course, as I have continued to mother this work, and I do mean mother because coaching this work is not the same all the time. I used to think that it was. But coaching this work and mothering this work is very different in terms of rebirth, in terms of being a spiritual midwife, because the work that I get the opportunity to do with women allows and teaches women how to rebirth themselves or an aspect of themselves. And sometimes, we glorify the baby that comes, but we don't oftentimes want to talk about the actual childbirth or the preparation, the 9-month preparation, if your baby was able to marinate in your womb that long. And I'm not just talking about a physical baby, but I'm using the analogy and the timeline of birth, because in the law of attraction, sometimes it's easy to focus on what's not, what it is that you don't want, and sometimes set up these boundaries and these guards. Of course, as a coach, a counselor, and a minister, I get the chance to know everyone's story who works with me intimately, even if we're in a group setting oftentimes. And sometimes it's easy when we come together into common spaces that we choose, because family is the common space that we don't believe we choose. Now, when you start doing this type of work with the laws, the universal laws, then we start to understand that even unconsciously, that before I can remember, there was some level of choice. I choose my parents. I chose the family. I chose a lot of these things to have this experience. I may not be aware. And one of the things that I learned very early on is that really this earth experience is a journey of remembering that I already knew and that I already chose. Okay, so I slow down again. There are principles of this human journey that reaches into the metaphysical that does make us much more responsible and much more of participants on this journey, so that we can get the lessons that we need to get oftentimes for our bloodline. Now, if you're in the ancient Kemetic community, they call it ancestors' return. When I say remembering, that's more of the cleaned up version in terms of remembering the truth of who I really am on this journey, because to come on this journey is to forget. So to take this journey, there's this whole thing, because see, babies come here from the cosmic. One of the things about babies that makes them unique is that they sleep a lot. They eat, they poop, they sleep. They wake up, they look at you a little bit because they're trying to get back into this earth suit. They're still connecting with the cosmic realm. A lot of times that sleep that they're getting is literally the communication lines are still open to the cosmic realm. And so they go through these journeys, this 7 years. Anything that you experienced in the first 7 years of your life has imprinted your human journey along the way. And if that thing has not been pleasant, if there is not a foundation, it doesn't matter how much you try to push it away, how much you try to act like it's not there. It grows with you, and you grow with it. And the same is true with our experiences. And so even when we learn language, when we switch locations, when we no longer are doing some of the human stuff that has caused us the greatest amount of trauma, pain, or we get away from the trauma, the pain, or we get away from even just in the courage to venture out and to explore, there still is an aspect of our first 7 years that have imprinted us. And so you spend the next 7 years really trying to cope with what you just experienced the first, and then these cycles, they go on and on. Even at 28 years old, if I were to ask each of you on the phone, where were you or at 28 years old? Where were you on your journey? Many of you would, if you start to remember, most of the times you can remember you were going through great change at 28. You were making some decisions at 28. Why is that? Because every 28 years we go through what's called a Saturn return. And this is the time where it feels like, you are absolutely like shredding something, like you are going through a period of revisiting something that's painful. Like, this is when life kind of is teaching you lessons, and you don't know why do they feel so hard, because even then you are going through a sort of cosmic change. It's a rite of passage that you're going to experience with yourself, whether you want to or not. This is the thing that makes you grow up, make some grown-up decisions. And sometimes there are events in our life that will cause us to skip it or not pay attention to that period of 28. Yes, I want everybody on the phone to think about where were you between 27 years old and 30, because usually this is where you are being welcomed, and there's an awakening about maturity. You start to have a different type. See, Saturn comes to teach you lessons that you wouldn't otherwise receive from someone else. So you have to kind of learn them on your own. And it's the lessons that break you down. And then we go through them another 28 years. You revisit, because the truth is, check this out. After you go through this Saturn return, and depending on what you do with your awarenesses, if you don't begin to work on yourself and shifting yourself, and which is entirely possible, sometimes it takes a series of life events to get our attention before we stop blaming them over there, before we stop looking at him and her and start to look at why is this happening in my life? Why am I attracting this particular thing? Sometimes it may not always be a thing, a person, but it could be people in general, and it could be a place, or it could be your body, a situation. whatever the noun is oftentimes the cause of us to start looking at the adjectives in our life and how we describe our lives. And sometimes even when we are approaching that Saturn return again, it is important to be aware of this. So the next one oftentimes that you experience is about, 46? Oh, no. Yeah, every 28 years, 56. So if you are a 56-year-old, sometimes if you didn't miss the lessons at 28 or between 27 and 30, then around the 55, 56, 57 mark, now you're coming back to look at some of those karmic lessons as well. The reason why I'm talking about these karmic lessons is because sometimes death, relationships, and the quality of your relationships, you do evaluate that. You do look to see, did I reach out to that person? Did I say what I really meant and felt? Was I really, did I, whatever the case may be, I wish we'd had more time, or did it really matter what I was experiencing? I don't know about you, but that's what make you do that. Even when you have been there, people who've been there still feel like sometimes they wish that they could have done more. And I come into this saying that life is precious, but your life is precious too. And sometimes we're not even conscious and aware of the different phases that we're going through it, because sometimes we're busy trying to get to the other side that we're not even present with what phase am I in? What phase of my life am I in? Who's around me? Who needs to shift that's been around me? Why do I respond to life and relationships this way, the way that I do? What legacy am I leaving behind? And sometimes it's not just a will or an estate, although we don't want to leave our families in debt, having to do a GoFundMe in order to bury us. But what type of relationship legacy am I leaving? Am I going to continue the legacy of what no longer works for me being a woman, me being in relationship with women, me teaching the women who are behind me how to be in relationship with themselves and with women, how to teach boys how to be in relationship with women, and my relationship with boys and men and the masculine. Is that something that I want to continue? I can tell you as a daddy's girl that there was a point in my tears where I was good with the fact that my relationship with my father was good. I watched it transform. I used these healing principles. I did my work. I had coaches. I had the best coaches and therapists in terms of healing that. And now I teach women how to heal these relationships while you have the chance. But I was good with that, but there were still questions that I asked myself, like, Dad, why was he the one that had to, not that I wanted my mother or anybody else to be the one, but it was ironic that he, quote unquote, left me again. I had that conversation came up for me, and that was a conversation that I had to have now in the spirit realm in order to be present in the physical realm. And so I offer these as opportunities for us to learn more. Not necessarily to look at what I did wrong or just trying to get it right, but just an opportunity to learn more about myself, and learn more about the quality of my relationships and the karmic legacy that I'm creating. Because do you know that you can move through these Saturn returns a little bit easier when you are self-aware? When you are preparing and spiritually cleaning yourself and your body, your health, your healing. And I look at how intuitive Tracy was as she moved through this journey with cancer, and how she began to present herself in a way that her son now is selling her books and her son is able to step into. And if you know anything about her testimony, she loved that boy with every fiber of her being. I mean, everything she wanted to do was so that she could be better and attract different things into her life in order to be a model to him. And here now he gets to read his mother's story, and dialogue opened between them even before then. And he's going through now his own rites of passage. You know, it's nothing like the rites of passage of death and even threat of it. Now, I'm not to be morbid today on this call, but I wanted to talk about this because sometimes we fear death in our lives and what we leave behind, and having conversations about what we've inherited. Sometimes we fear looking at what we've inherited and try to just erase it away with a scripture. We try to erase it away with a good outfit, or trying to fix it by making sure, saying that we want our children not to have to experience what we experience, and only to realize that you really don't control that. You know, you can provide optimal conditions, but most of the time, all of the things that we try to do to avoid creates more of it. Can I say that again? That's still the law of attraction, is our resistance creates the persistence of whatever the thing is that we say we don't want, we attract more of it. And that's the same with connecting it to the Saturn return, and even for this Venus retrograde that we are experiencing, still experiencing under a Taurus full moon. Many people have been saying, you know, they've been going through this whole revisitation of matters of the heart, exes showing up, sometimes poor choices are reflecting and showing up, and only to realize, oh my goodness, I can see my hand in this, or that type of question. When you ask the question why, a lot of times the intention is we want to go to a book, we want to go to the person, and we want an explanation. We even say we want closure. But the truth of the matter is the answer lives in the same room as the question. The answer lives in the same room as the question. And some things about ourselves and about our journey, true enough, sometimes they come to us much later because we just wasn't ready to receive the truth about a thing or the weight of the truth early on. And give thanks for that grace of where you are right now, rather than have regret or trying to rush to do something, to be something, to become something, to fill the gaps, because now you have this new information. Be the Beatitudes, you know, be present. Be present with all of it, especially to the runners, to the fight or flight, who are familiar with fight or flight, shutting down. Sometimes learning how to choose to be present with the uncomfortable in the law of attraction allows you to never have to have it come nigh your dwelling again. Now, death we don't control, but how we respond to death and what we believe about it, because this human journey is far more of a prison than what I understand those who have been on the other side of life as we know it, to be a place of freedom. And when you start to study the thing that we've been taught to invert and fear everything, even as we approach Halloween, or whatever the Day of the Dead, as some call that, we've been taught to fear that. And most of it is because they focus on the fear and the morbidity of it. But the truth of the matter, this time is one of the most sacred times on the planet to monitor our mouth, to do our rituals, to go into the dark and the shadow side of ourselves intentionally, because the womb is a dark place. We came out of darkness. In the darkness, possibility is born. That's why the word is I am possible. The fact that we've gone, some of you weren't supposed to be here, wasn't even supposed to be born, but you got through the odds and you are here. Even going through your mother's womb, the sperm that made it to the egg made it through the hostile environment of the womb because it fights off anything foreign that's in it. That is the conditions of life. And so there are things that we've had to fight through even before when the word says, I knew you when you were formed in your mother's womb. If we look at the environment of just getting here on this earth planet, becoming from where we already were, because remember, all of the organs represent the stars and the planets. If you don't know this and you've heard this for the first time, this is not just mysticism. And the more we study the levels of understanding our metaphysical superpowers, as we talk about in this space, when you begin to understand the first level, it prepares you for all of these other levels of ways to leave the body, ways that the mind can transport you beyond the physical, ways that you will start to open your spiritual gifts, including your mouth, to be a gift and not a curse to yourself, but to be able to open your mind to see into the future, because all mothers, all women have the psychic power that begins with our intuition, called women's intuition. The inclinations that we get, those are gifts. It becomes more refined when we pay attention to ourselves beyond just pain management and survival, beyond just being here to pay bills, beyond just the fear-based automatic response of doing the same thing at the same time every day, looking for the results that we saw other people create instead of creating the results that are our wildest dreams. You have permission to break the mold. You have permission to do it late, to start late and finish early. You have permission right now to complete the phases of your childhood that you did not get a chance to complete, to let yourself be the little girl, to give your adolescence something to do. You have permission. Life is just that precious. And as I live more of it, a lot of times when I do something new and I push past the fear of doing something new and having conversations that sometimes that are painful and uncomfortable without the attitude, but just being open, or having conversations with the tears, having conversations without having to respond, or having conversations with the intention of hearing. Like, I'm just giving you the possibilities of what is different than what we've done it. Every time I challenge my body a little bit more in an area that I didn't do it earlier, I always think, man, what if I had known it was this easy, this fun, this adventurous? What if I had done this when I was a little bit more of a whippersnapper? And when your body bounces back a little easier, what if I had no shame and guilt about my womanhood? What if I didn't worry about what people thought about me, and I literally I let myself be a little reckless here and there? What if I didn't try to be so grown and move into responsibility so quickly? What if? Well, guess what? Those are the places that sometimes you wonder, well, what if I fall when I take this leap into this new self and to this new program and to this new relationship and to this new whatever? But the question is, what if you take on your wings and you fly? Life is that precious, and it's presenting us opportunities all the time. And when we come together in tribe and in sisterhood, there really is an opportunity to move through the repetitive coping mechanisms without the same response. There are opportunities to share who you are as more so as a human being rather than just as a parent who has authority. There's an opportunity. Your children want to know who you are. They don't want you to mold so much of who they're becoming, but you just sharing a little bit more vulnerable about who you are helps them to connect with the humanness of you. Your mates sometimes don't necessarily want to be managed and controlled such. Your lovers, sometimes your lovers just want to be or need to be your lovers instead of you trying to make them into lifetime mates. Can you just savor the moments that you're given to experience your own inner authority, to move past and forgive people without punity, without holding grudges, being passive aggressive? Oh, yeah, I'm still talking about the possibilities because sometimes we listen with filters. We listen to concepts like this with filters, or we listen sometimes wanting to avoid doing the work, the spiritual message of healing our heart, matters of the heart. It's easy to put on the armor, the whole armor, but sometimes you got to take it off. You have to take off the whole armor. Now, the whole armor of God is different, and shifting into a new experience with ourselves is available sometimes through the things that we resist. And that's what I love about Tracy and her testimony and her story. And that's what I love about our beloved sister, whose name I don't want to mess up, but let's say Sister Shanga. I've taken everyone off mute. Whenever we have an activist or a butterfly that leaves us, I think that my new commitment is to always teach us how to spread our wings. Because the mere fact that any woman has gone through this rites of passage program as a woman over 20, 25, because most of the women who come in here, they come in here over that age, you made a choice. You made a choice for your life. And listen, Tracy didn't make it just one time. She's done the program, I think, when it was 7 weeks and then when it was 6 months. And other programs in between. She's done private coaching. I mean, really just hunkered in. Has had a story of running and shutting down and opening up again. Oh, my God, how graceful. How grateful. I just send thanks and praise to just being able to witness my sister and to midwife her. The honor that I feel that she chose rebirth and to rebirth and emerge transformed, such that she left up out of here, because you don't always have to stay. Sometimes a part of the journey is being able to let go at the supreme level and honor herself. She let go at the supreme level. And I just give thanks to Ntoke Shange the same. So if I'm pronouncing that name wrong, everyone is unmuted. Can someone correct me if I'm pronouncing our sister Arthur's name wrong? Some of you fellow poets and writers.
Good morning, Reverend LaTanya. This is Alicia. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, love.
Okay. Yes, in Tozak Shange. I saw For Colored Girls When the Rainbow Is Enough when I was about 10 years old. It was my first play I had ever gone to. And my parents took me to the Lyric Opera in Kansas City, Missouri. And she left an indelible mark on me, on my soul. She, when you talk about what if I had flown, what about the possibilities? At 10 years old, she left that mark on me. I mean, to see those beautiful black women there, and I always remember the woman in red with the children. And at 10, so it's been 38 years since I saw that play, and I just mentioned it to someone in the past 7 days. But she always left me with this feeling. I remember being in my 20s and going and finding that play when I was in college and reading it and just being taken through all of the emotions that she takes you through and walks you through with each of those women, and still then 15 years later at that point, feeling as though all of those women had a story that was in me and that I had been uplifted by it. And when this morning, when I sat on my back deck and heard you say that she had passed, I immediately felt a sadness, but I then remembered how I felt, how empowered I felt at 10 to see her and her work being unfolded on stage. So I want in Tozak Shange.
Thank you. I was close.
Yes.
Thank you. I hear the passion. Yes, the thinking about the empowerment, absolutely, that she left, and how many people have done that play and gone to that play and dealt with the issue of depression. Now, because of her, depression became a safe thing for Black women to talk about, and the anger and the rage and the quote-unquote the angry Black woman in her story is the seductress and the sensuality and sometimes even overcompensating. Those four women, they live in us. Those four women they represent us, or how we judge aspects of ourselves. Thank you so much for opening with that reverence. What you feel in your belly is just reverence for life. Let it flow, my sister. Let it flow. Anyone else in your listening this morning felt your belly jump? If you are new here for the first time, we are a space where we are interrupting the pattern of I just come in and take what I need. You can do that, but there are oftentimes gifts and spiritual energy that's moving through you that requires acknowledgement, and it blesses the space to hear how we are synchronized and how we are absolutely on time. Is there anyone else who felt what we call a belly jump in your listening that you'd like to share?
Good morning, sister.
Good morning.
Good morning. This is Sandy. And my belly jumped when you were talking about us going through the different phases in, each 28 years. Because right now I'm going through a phase of learning about my body and my sickness that I have, which is called Hashimoto's disease. And it's been a great journey from what I've learned in the last 3 months. And it just got me on a different regimen with my life and my way of thinking and how long I've really suffered with the disease. Not knowing, people telling people that thyroid, you have thyroid disease, but it's not just the thyroid disease, it's an immune disease that is back in our ancestry. If we go back in our history and our family. So I've learned so much about it and myself, and it made me think back to when I was younger that I was suffering with this disease as a young girl, but didn't know what it was. So my belly jumped when you talked about that and me looking back over my life. And I thank you for being in my life because your guidance has helped me so much. And all the sisters in this group have really helped me listening. A lot of times I'm one that don't speak. I listen, but it's because I'm trying to learn me and understand me and why I'm so quiet. But I take in a lot, and I learn from each person, which has always been a great thing for me, and I've been like that for a long time because you're never too old to learn from someone. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. You are always such a beautiful example of that willingness to continue to learn. Thank you so much for sharing. Anyone else? Are you digesting or afraid to speak to this topic? Come on, lovelies. Release that wisdom that you have into this space, lovely ones. The water feels good. You can jump on in. It's not too hot. It's not too cold. No, not too many waves. All right. I'm going to honor the quiet space of you this morning. Are there any prayer requests? Because also, sometimes because of the time, we forget to ask if there's something you have need of that you want to just drop into this fertile space that we create together. Any
Good
prayer
morning.
requests?
This is Dana. Good morning.
Good morning.
I was trying to get on a little earlier, but I was having technical difficulties, and I just wanted to say that, this is the first time I've been in a community space such as this, and we have experienced a sister ascending forward, and I just give thanks for the community of sisterhood and, the sharing of each of our own gifts and how we impact one another in one form or another. So I just give thanks for Sister Tracy and the other sisters whose name I'm not even going to attempt to try to mess up, and for their lives and legacies that they have passed forward, and the idea that we too have a legacy to pass forward. We just need to move in the present. And so I give thanks for that. And my prayer request this morning is simply just healing during this changing of the seasons, just healing and protecting during this changing of the seasons, because this is a time where a lot of, our immune systems go down, or, we're trying to stay conscious of the weather, but things can creep up. So I just pray for healing and protection during this season.
Oh, thank you. It's true. We definitely are in a transition season. And if you are on this call, women who are intentional, who are programming your own reality, I do encourage you in the next couple of days, especially this what's known as Halloween, to really spend some time either journaling, singing, dancing, praying, even fellowshipping, just setting the intention of what it is that you are wanting this season to be. As we this is the change. This is why the government knows when they are ending a fiscal year and beginning a fiscal year. Even they are practicing the science and the alchemy that sometimes we miss because we wait till January to begin, but they do it in the season. They set the season at the beginning of October. So here we go to somebody's job and we don't pay attention to the signs and symbols of the occult in front of our face. And so we are in a new season, and this is a precious season for women. Whereas we may look at it and say, this is where you slow down, but it really is an opportunity to receive what you have planted when you've been active. Now, see, okay, Lord, I'm not trying to teach again, but Dana, that's how we work together. Listen to that. This is the time that you receive based on whatever you've been at. That's law of attraction. So many of you who've been in the rites of passage process, or you've been in this journey or coaching or something, you've been active, taking risks, stretching outside your comfort zone. And guess what? That cornucopia of blessings, the cornucopia of awarenesses, the fruit that the vegetables, the garden, the things that you have planted now got to be pulled up. They got to come up out of the ground lest they're root vegetables. We got to look at the season. And so this is the time where women get a chance to receive more. during this season, getting ready to prepare to do it all again, to begin planting and programming as the days get longer after Christmas. So this is why we do look at making sure we start doing our work. A lot of times around this time of year, I have a specialized program intentionally timed but with Fix My Life, this year we'll see what happens with that. But this is absolutely the season for us. So thanks. This is what we do when we come in space together. So if there's no one else, good morning.
Good morning. This is Dawn. I just would like to bear a prayer request to pray for those who are grieving. As we go into the holiday season, those who are grieving the loss of our sister Tracy, and as these seasons come around, some grieve. Even they're shedding their old selves. So I would just like to put that out there as a prayer request.
Oh, thank you.
Mama LaTonya, this is Renee. I also have a prayer request. I'm asking for this community to hold space for me, my husband, and my children as they enter into a very sacred rites of passage for over the next 6 months. That because I know that this is a shift for our lineage, and I know that they are stepping into and honoring, and they have made a choice as young vessels voluntarily to step into something that mirrors different to a cult, to spirituality, to their culture. And I'm just asking for, again, support in this, in this community of women that I know love and care for me. And the oil, of course, falling from you has fallen to me, my family. So I just, so I give thanks for what's to come, and just ask that that you all send love and light and support during this time of sacred transition for our entire family.
Absolutely. Thank you. Seems like the rites of passage theme is what's coming up, just even as we talk about a Saturn return, as we talk about, honoring life, our own lives. So we take that as a rhema. And this is the power of women coming together, that we don't always have to have a card. We don't always have to have a book. That sometimes the rhema is us. And when we speak up, we show up, and we raise the energy up because of just what you all just did. And so if you can clear our spaces, I just want, if you knew Tracy Sims Washington, can you just say your name, those of you who did know her? If you knew or you met her or ever worked with her, even in our sister spaces, can you say your name?
Tommy.
Okay, so we just have one sister who knew her. And, of course, most of us knew the work or were touched by the work of our beloved sister, Arthur. And anyone, like as our sister Dawn said, if you're shedding your own self, sometimes there's grief even with that. It's nothing like looking back over your life and realizing you have not been an angel. And some of the things you created, some of the things you were running from. It's nothing like looking back over your life and saying, "Oh, I did that." somebody tells you that you did something that hurt their feelings, and being able to say, you know what, I did do that. Dang. Ooh. And instead of feeling shame or guilt, sometimes you just grieve a little bit. Like, I don't want to be that person. You get to acknowledge those spaces. And so today we're doing that. And we lift it up to a higher vibration, starting with our womb. Just place your left hand over your womb just to acknowledge its presence, because from the womb we came, and from into the womb representing the earth's turn, and thinking that each, for the journey in between. We came from a womb that came from a womb that came from a womb. The womb power is so cosmic and so infinite. The wombs that we come from, we're still connected to. And so 7 generations of wombs that we touch, we're touching, when we touch ourselves, we're touching 7 generations of wombs before us, and 7 generations of wombs that are coming behind us. Yes, your womb, whether you created a physical life or not. My question is, what kind of life otherwise are we creating? What kind of life are we creating in our lives? And sometimes it doesn't look like rescuing and doing for everybody. Sometimes it's being your best self and giving other people permission to do the same, as we honor the babies. And they're not really babies. Let's call them ancestors return that Renee just spoke of, call her children, because they are ancestors return. They made a high choice for themselves. So we get to be guardians and custodians that honor that something is shifting in her line, in her family line. Give thanks that the Goss family is shifting. And even though the children may not see everything or only see it on one level, we know that this shift, Mama chose a rites of passage. So now look at Mama's reflection showing up. You all are choosing at high levels with your womb. Yes, bless your womb. Thank your womb. Thank the wombs that are connected to your womb that you came through. Even if the wombs were a source of pain and conflict, give thanks for it, because now you're aware of it. You're not unconscious as most of the world has been. You could have been unconscious, blind, deaf, and dumb to this thing called awakening. But you said yes somewhere along your journey. This is a great space of prayer to call forth the names of your grandmothers, your call them and speak them into the space. Josie B. Taylor.
Carrie Jackson.
Della Davis. Yes.
Washington. Pat Hammer.
Roberta.
Catherine Hammer.
Aunt Flossie.
Mary J. White. Bernice Marshall. Thelma Brittany.
Hey, listen to the women. Listen to the women. Yes.
Roberta.
Ashe.
Ayana Camera.
Ashe. Ooh, there's a sweet presence. Ooh, yeah, I hope you're still touching the womb. Ashe. Sarah Golden. Ashe. Priscilla Noble Nash. Ashe. And now we get to call on our sister Tracy Sims Washington.
Tracy Sims Washington.
Tracy Sims Washington.
Karen Robinson.
Yeah. Speak her name. We lift her on this journey. We lift her. She got her wings while she was here, so that she could be lifted, that she can send the messages to her son to guide his hand right now, even as she prepares to transition. That those of us who are here, we get to choose to live, and that we continue to lift the name of all of our ancestors when we feel like we are having to do it in our own strength. that we are that sometimes they can be better to us on the other side. We got angels who know our name, and angels who pray for us before we were ever named in our mother's womb. We thank you, Holy Spirit. We are a powerful source of women. Each and every woman on this call today, I affirm how precious their life is, not only to me, but to themselves and to their family. I thank you, Holy Spirit, for the precious life of each and every sister on this call. I thank you for the voice of each and every sister on this call. I thank you for the spiritual eyesight for each and every sister on this call. I thank you for the spiritual listening for each and every sister on this call. I thank you for the spiritual work and impact of each and every sister on this call. I thank you for their children who are connected to the work that they are doing in their own lives on this call. Their nieces, their nephews, their cousins, their godchildren, and even their co-workers are better because they were in their lives. I thank you for the power that each and every woman represents on this call.
Hallelujah.
I thank you that there's no big I's and little U's amongst us. That together we come together to be of service, to lift each other higher. I thank you, Holy Spirit, for the power of forgiveness. For those of us who have been injured by women, on behalf of women, for women, that when we've been injured by a woman, that it's an opportunity for us sometimes to forgive the woman the same way we would a no good man. I thank you the way that we have given grace and mercy to men, that we will give grace and mercy to the women who have unknowingly hurt us, the women who have put up defense mechanisms and fear because they've been hurt by their own mother. I pray for even at the depths of the mother womb, that we will shift even the wound of our mother that wounded us, that we will shift even the reality when women in our family have not been good to us, that we will be the shift that we have been praying to. We will be better to ourselves than others have been to us, and we will be better to other women and to womanhood than sometimes we have had a model and a reference point for, that we are the new reference point, that we are the new scripture. We are the new revelation. We are the New Testament, that we are writing it with our lives, and the rest is still unwritten. We thank you, Holy Spirit, for that we give ourselves permission to edit the story, to change the narrative, to interrupt the pattern, that we give ourselves permission to know that we are made ready to sit in the uncomfortable spaces at times, so that we can come through on the other side with a new muscle, with a new maturity, with a new wisdom. I thank you, Holy Spirit, for what you are building in us, and even the things that we are tearing down, the structures that have been built that we didn't have a choice in, that we are doing demolishment in order for us to build a new foundation of thought, a new foundation of action, a new foundation of movement, a new foundation of wealth, a new foundation of abundance, a new foundation of sisterhood, a new foundation that we are being the builders and birthers, that we give ourselves permission not only just to build something, but to birth something that has not ever been here, including ourselves. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Thank you for this unique group of women that we are.
Thank you.
That we are no longer being ordinary. I thank you for extraordinary womanhood in this special space today. I thank you for every woman that comes through it and gives herself permission to be born again. Nicodemus said, shall I re-enter into the womb of my mother and be born again? And Jesus said, he gave an affirmative answer, that we have to go through the mother's womb, but not the physical mother. It's in there for us. Hallelujah. Thank you for John, the whole chapter of John. The Rebirth International is doing the work of John 3. Thank you, Holy Spirit, for me giving my life to you. I thank you that I continue to give my life to you, Holy Spirit, so that you can be lifted up in a new way. I thank you for women who are choosing to give themselves to the spirit that is within them, that sits on them, that walks with them, that talks with them. I thank you, Holy Spirit, for this ministry, this walking, living, breathing organism that's continuing to expand and to grow beyond our wildest imagination. I thank you one day for being able to employ women and to create an economic development amongst us so that we will not suffer in our stories. I thank you, Holy Spirit, for the gifts of each and every woman in this space, that together we will form a community that is high and lifted up, and that we will attract other women who are looking to do the same. I say thank you, Holy Spirit, for the precious life. Precious Lord of the universe, here we are. Take our hands, lead us on, let us stand. Sometimes we get weary and sometimes we get tired. But I thank you, Holy Spirit, that you right there will help us to be not weary in our well-doing. And so for this and so much more, we let it be so. And so it is. Ashe.
And so it is.
Ashe. Ashe. Thank you.
Hallelujah. Thank you.
Love you.
If you didn't get a chance to share, please join us in Good Girls Gone Goddess. I look forward to connecting more with you in the month of November. Stay tuned, because around this time of the year we usually do a special challenge to shift with the energy of the shifting energy. I'll be announcing something for the month of November. I hope you'll all be able to participate in. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. I'll see you on the other side. Ciao, everyone.
Ciao. Love you.